Guardians, what's going on, guys? Your boy Sly here, and welcome back to another Sly Nation Destiny 2 video. First of all, I want to thank all of you out there for the recent support in my Destiny videos here recently, which, by the way, is effing awesome, and sorry I could only give away 30 beta codes in total. I seriously underestimated the amount of people interested in getting in early. So, with the beta right under our noses and information kind of at a standstill right now until the beta opens, I wanted to do a little lore speculation for Destiny 2. Now, as a disclaimer, I have no knowledge of Destiny 2, if that isn't obvious enough, so this is complete speculation, but it's not completely unfounded. You know, I've read a lot of lore over the past few years, and I see where Bungie gets their ideas from, and I think I know what, in part, may be coming. Now, if this turns out to be completely wrong, well, it'll be awesome and we can all laugh about this later. So first, let's start by asking ourselves, what is the darkness? In reality, the darkness, as far as we know, is simply a group of some pissed off enemies, either wronged by the Traveler, or here for as of yet an unknown reason. Now, we know the Elixni were once granted the Traveler's gifts, and they had their own golden age. When the darkness found them and the Traveler fled, they went from a high and mighty civilization to a species almost extinct, forced to flee from their homeworld and spend the next millennia, living aboard starships and salvaging what they could to survive, stealing, killing, whatever they had to do in order to keep the houses alive. Oh, how the mighty have fallen, hence the name. But the Fallen are grouped within the darkness. The Hive, Cabal, taken, all of these forces of the darkness. But what is it really? Now, to me, the darkness just seems to be, the true rulers of the Hive. I mean, I don't know if that's true or not, but even Oryx has a boss out there, and the Fallen and Cabal are simply, species caught up in the mix that are now our enemies. What it really is, nobody really has a clear understanding of yet, but I'm sure we'll find out soon. Now, the Hive, they have incredible technology, guys. They can teleport entire areas into different planes of existence. Have you ever noticed in Crota Zendre they have these rotating pillars? You can see them in other areas as well, like for instance on the Dreadnought, but only in the Dreadnought are they rotating, and that only happens after you enter a portal. These are interdimensional teleporters. When they spin, they create a bubble that basically whisks away entire areas into a completely different reality. Once they stop rotating, it falls back into place. The start of the Crota raid was simply an entrance to this other dimension, and once you pass over the forming bridge, the two rotating columns on the left and right sort of envelop the whole area, and the long hallway you walk through is where these two bubbles converge, the entrance to this plane of existence. The same thing happens on the Dreadnought. Whenever you go to the Dreadnought and you finally beat the large ogre and that huge taken Cabal guy, once you go through that portal, you're in a different plane of existence as well. Even though it looks like the Dreadnought, it is the Dreadnought, but in a completely different reality. Though from what we know, the Hive have never been touched by the Traveler like humanity or the Fallen have, unless I missed it somewhere in the Grimoire. They have this different, almost magical technology formed all on their own. They can even store souls of Ascendant Hives into large ruins, and then once they are ready to return, Thrall can then be grown and have the soul inhabit the Thrall's body to begin the process again. That's kind of like their version of reproduction. This is pretty advanced stuff. The Dreadnought, while kind of rough looking, can travel through space, time, and different dimensions. So while the Fallen and Cabal are our enemies, I don't think they are necessarily with the darkness. The darkness is just a general term for the baddies in Destiny 1, at least for now. I think the Hive are the puppets of the true darkness, which, as we know, will kind of be shelved in Destiny 2 until writers can fully explain the darkness and what it actually is. So now, let's set aside the darkness for a second and take a look at the trailers we've seen so far. Destiny 2 is centered on the Cabal, of course, but even so, you find other enemies all over the place. We see the Vex, Hive, yeah, even Taken, but not once do we see anyone shooting or killing Fallen in any of these trailers. Now, we do see some in the Zavala's origin story, but that was history, not present time. The Fallen, they're scavengers, right? But they're not stupid. They wouldn't have survived the many, many years of interstellar travel if they were. So in the House of Wolves, the next Kel Skolas was taken out. All the different houses are basically in disarray, either from when we beat them or from Oryx taking them, infighting, what have you. Now, with the Cabal here on our doorstep, which, by the way, the Fallen and Cabal, they don't get along either in the first place, what's the next logical step if you're a dying race? Surrender, right? But that would only happen if a leader, Akel, the one who controlled the Fallen, made that decision for them. And as we know, The Fallen do not go down without a fight. So where am I going with this? I believe we are heading in a direction where the Fallen become our allies. Maybe not in Destiny 2, but perhaps in a later DLC, or maybe even further down the road. So the next obvious question, who's going to lead them? The Awoken. Now, the Awoken never believed in the light and the dark, and in fact, the Awoken were simply humans who, while fleeing Earth, had a run-in with the true darkness, and even though they survived, they were changed, and for the better. The Awoken, or the Illuminated, means that they see the truth before them, and I think there's been a deep backstory in the works for some time. If you remember, the Queen already had the House of Wolves on board. I think Mara Sov is due to return as Queen of the Kell, Queen of the Fallen. Now, supposedly she's dead, right? But we know the Queen did not get to where she was by dying off. You'll notice that when she summons her missiles to attack Oryx's Dreadnought, she closes her eyes. Along with her Teshwan, they are known to have some pretty powerful abilities. So right before the scene cuts away, we see her close her eyes once again. To me, that means that she's summoning something else, before she gets destroyed. Now, even though the ship is destroyed, I personally think she makes it out just fine. Perhaps being dead is the best way to pull the strings from behind the scenes. Now, from reading the Grimoire and the Age of Triumph cards, we know that Prince Uldrensov survived, and is on Mars with Varix beside him. And even though it tells that he allows the Fallen to track him and then ultimately capture him, I think we're going to be laying the groundwork for the houses to merge under the Queen. And if you read some more of the Grimoires throughout the Age of Triumph, again, you will see that the houses are indeed disbanding. The Grimoires talk about there's been fires lit all throughout the Cosmodrome, and within them are banners, flags, and various armor of fallen houses. Now, the only one we know for sure that has not disbanded is the House of Wolves. With Gary on the rise and his massive army that can take entire planets, we need them, and they need us. So I personally think that in the very near future, maybe not the first part in Destiny 2, but soon, we will be side by side with the Fallen. Taken King subclasses, they were given to us by the Traveler. If you remember, we learned them by harnessing the power of elemental energy. So we're already on the path to relying less on the Traveler, and more so on ourselves. And with the Speaker missing, or perhaps dead, this is the perfect time to see through the lies, because while we may be the light, it could be that the Traveler, along with the Speaker, are in fact the real darkness. Wherever the Traveler goes, it brings brief prosperity, followed by ultimate collapse. While we don't know much about the Traveler, it has to feed off of something to survive. It needs something that these planets or civilizations have. And in turn, it gives us technology or a brief golden age. But we could have got there by ourselves with enough time. Just like in Mass Effect, Solarians gave the Krogan advanced technology, including older nuclear technology, so they could use it for energy, and they end up almost wiping themselves out. Giving advanced tech to a civilization that has not yet earned it or isn't ready for it can be a death sentence to that particular race. Also, the whole enemy of my enemy is my friend deal, those stories can go back thousands of years to Greek mythology, and even before it. In fact, if you think about some of these stories in Destiny 1, there are tons of similarities to Greek mythology in Destiny. For instance, the Traveler brought humanity into the Golden Age and brought the light. Its counterpart in Greek mythology, Prometheus, a Greek god, brought fire to humanity, and in doing so was punished by the gods for interfering with the advancement of humankind. As punishment, Prometheus was banished and forced to live forever, while ravens would eat his internal organs every day for all of eternity. Now, you can relate the Traveler to Prometheus, and it pretty much did the same thing. In Vanilla Destiny, we had a mission where 3 hive witches had a shard of the Traveler, and they were constantly feeding off its light. Who's to say that the Hive and the Traveler do not come from the same place, or the Traveler isn't a creation of the darkness, and it's just out of control? One thing I thought was pretty awesome, something I read off a website a while back, is that after the gods were done and completed the setting up of punishment for Prometheus, they turned their attention towards humanity and started creating chaos on Earth. They sent down a goddess by the name of Pandora, and of course Pandora had a box, which is where the name comes from, but when opened, it would release various gods that would unleash hell on Earth. One of those gods, the god of strife I think it was named Eris, so that's a pretty cool connection right there. So think about it, that directly relates to the Traveler. The Traveler comes here, gives us advanced technology, there's an overseeing evil that comes to punish the Traveler. Once the Traveler is taken out, they then turn their attention to Earth. And that's exactly what's happening here. So I thought that was pretty neat. Now, while we're talking about Eris, I think she has plans of her own as well. This all connects to that deeper backstory. All we know is that she lost it a little when she was living amongst the Hive. While I think we will eventually see the return of Osiris and Toland, especially since the Vanguard has now scattered, this would be a perfect time for Osiris and Toland's teachings to be heard. Eris will make a name for herself as well. So, if we put a few things together here, the fact that Mara Sov probably isn't dead, and she's going to lead the Fallen, and now with Oryx out of the way, who's going to lead the Hive? Yep, you guys guessed it, our own Eris herself. If you listen to what Eris says after the last story mission in The Taken King, you will hear her talk to, quote-unquote, my queen. That queen, I think, is Mara Sov.
My queen. You were right. The Guardian was the key. For the first time, the whispers are silent. It is done. I have accepted my fate. I will not fail.
When Eris says she accepts her fate and she will not fail, she has that obsidian crystal from Oryx. By the way, ever wonder what those black things are all over the moon in those like hive wagons? The Hive mine obsidian. They needed to store and transfer ascended souls, so that's what those are. But moving on, I believe that while the Queen is going for the Fallen, Eris is shooting for the Hive. She knows they need to be stopped, but she doesn't hate them or want them destroyed. She grew too close to them, and I think she wants to save them by giving them the right direction, something only she could do if she was in power. Now, Guardians cannot survive in the darkness, so I think that the crystal she obtained is more than just a crystal for our swords. I believe she's trying to meet up with Toland in the Ascendant Realm and bring him back because she needs his teachings in help securing the throne. Now, of course, guys, this is all speculation here, but I think it's also very plausible. If you start thinking about each piece, and then take all of those conclusions and put them together, you'll start to see a huge shift coming. With the darkness being out and taking a back seat until Bungie decides on what the darkness really is, I think we will find out that all of these species are here fighting because of the Traveler, and the darkness is just the puppet master. Right now, the darkness simply means enemies, like, minions of darkness, baddies. But I think it's about to get a lot more complex. And with all of these renowned writers Bungie has brought on board, like those from Mass Effect and BioWare, I think the story is about to get jump-started in a big way. But that's it, guys. My predictions and speculation for what's to come. Now, whether or not any of this comes true, I have no idea. But I do believe the Fallen will become our allies sometime in the future. And it probably will not be at the start of Destiny 2. We'll be too focused on the Cabal and taking back the city. But soon after things start settling down, I think other things will start adding up, and it all will be revealed. Alright, y'all, I'm out of here. As always, thank you all so much for watching, and even though I made this video the day before the beta drops, I know a lot of you will be watching this during or even after the beta, so I hope you all have a great time this week. Make the most of it, y'all, and keep it here at Sly Nation for all your Destiny 2 needs. I'll have subclass reviews, weapon reviews, tips, tricks, secrets, and of course, when the game comes out, ton of raid stuff and full-on content time will be here, so definitely keep an eye out for that. I could not do this without each and every one of you out there, and if you're new to the channel, thanks for stopping by, and be sure to join the nation. Subscribe if you like Destiny content, and sharing these videos goes a very, very long way in helping me out. So spank the thumb, share the hell out of it, and have fun this week. Take care, y'all. Feel free to hit me up on Twitter or Facebook. Sly Nation Gaming. Keep those eyes peeled for more Destiny 2 content in the very, very near future. But until then, this is your boy Sly. Later, y'all.